Welcome everyone to Gamer Melt. Today I've got a bunch of stories to cover, so I wanted to do a talking head video, starting with Nvidia crushing AMD in this, Intel's 334 core monster, AMD screwed up yet again, AMD and Intel should watch out, and GPU sellers are lying. Okay, it's news time, and really quickly before I get to the stories, I wanted to share a pretty good deal that AMD just announced, that they're offering the upcoming Star Wars Jedi Survivor game for free when you purchase any of their Ryzen 7000 CPUs. You can see here that it includes their X as well as non-X CPUs and goes all the way down to their Ryzen 5 7600. So if you were sort of on the fence about Ryzen 7000, this does look to be a decent deal, and I'll have some affiliate links to these down in the description below. Anyway, moving to our first story, we have a pretty interesting story from the site Razum. Basically, what they did was they looked at a whopping 62 desktop GPUs from AMD, Nvidia, and Intel, and they basically looked through search engines to see what gamers were searching for to kind of get an idea of what's more popular, less popular, things like that. And they came to some pretty interesting conclusions. For one, out of the 62 graphics cards used in the research, Nvidia is the absolute winner. We're talking 78% of the total search queries were for Nvidia GPUs. Then we have AMD, which got 22%, and of course Intel with a very tiny 1%. When we look a little bit more down here, we can get an idea of what's really popular. As you can see, the RTX 3060 is the absolute winner, followed by the 3050, 3080, 3070, and then number 5, getting to the first next-gen GPU, the 4090, with 822,600 searches. Then the RTX 2060, surprisingly. All the way down, we have the 3090 down here. Finally, we get to one of AMD's GPUs, which is the RX 6600 with 533,600. And when we look further down here, we see more Nvidia GPUs. Then we get the 6600 XTs, 6700 XTs. So as you can tell, this is almost entirely dominated by Nvidia GPUs. And if I remember correctly, during one of Nvidia's recent earnings calls, I do believe they mentioned something like having 88% market share, somewhere around there. And that does at least somewhat look to be the case based on what people are searching for. Of course, this doesn't necessarily translate exactly to sales, but it's pretty clear that Nvidia's GPUs are the more popular ones. And next up for today, we have a new leak that has some pretty interesting stuff, or actually one in particular. This leak was originally done by a video from Moore's Law is Dead, where he actually discusses core count of Intel's upcoming CPUs that are made to challenge AMD's EPYC parts. And while the other ones are pretty interesting, we have Granite Rapids SP, which is up to 132 cores, then WS up to 86 cores, but there's one that's actually really interesting, and that is their Sierra Forest part. This one's interesting because it looks to exclusively use their E cores, meaning it won't be using any performance cores. But because of that, they're able to work on extremely high density. In this case, according to this leak, the Sierra Forest Xeon chip will house at least 344 cores, and they could get up to 528 cores. Apparently, it's going to come with 4 compute tiles, with each tile packing 86 cores, though there's a chance for some even higher core count we're talking up to 132 cores per tile. This is obviously meant to go against AMD's upcoming Zen 4C parts, which I guess you could say are kind of like the efficiency cores. They're basically little cores, so you can really pack in the density. Either way, it's interesting to see how Intel is going to be competing, and the fact that they're going up to a whopping 334 plus cores. And next up, AMD apparently has screwed up yet again. If you saw my last video, you know that I discussed the fact that on AMD's official website, under all of their 7000X 3D parts, they actually have where it says unlocked for overclocking, yes. And as I said then, this is effectively official given it is on AMD's own website at amd.com under each of these CPUs. But I did mention that they apparently messed up before by having a February 14th release date, to which AMD took down and then stated that it was a mistake. Well, I guess they screwed up yet again, as AMD has spoken with Andreas Schilling and stated, quote, Ryzen 7000 X3D series processors are unlocked for memory and Infinity Fabric overclocking, just like Ryzen 5800 X3D. New to the 7000 X3D, we have also added PBO and curve optimizer capabilities. You'll notice they didn't mention manual overclocking. And when you go to those pages now, they've since taken this, unlocked for overclocking, yes, down. Basically, they screwed up yet again, and as I said before, this was and is their official website where they had this up, which is why tons of outlets were discussing it, but unfortunately, that is apparently not the case. Now, it is good that they are going to have Precision Boost Overdrive and the Curve Optimizer, which they did not have with the 5800 X3D, so you can do at least a little bit of overclocking, but full-blown manual overclocking will apparently not be a thing. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on over at AMD.com, why in the world they keep making these mistakes, but hopefully they get this fixed soon. And next up for today, it looks like a Chinese chip maker, Longsun, has actually begun making APUs. Now, I do say APUs, and technically that's more of an AMD thing, though AMD themselves don't even use it anymore, but the reason I use it is really just because you know what I mean. This is an SoC, or system on a chip, meaning it has both the CPU and iGPU, or integrated GPU. And what's interesting is that it's not AMD or Intel, it's actually the Chinese chip maker Longsun. And as you can see down here, it's fairly interesting. It's not anything super special or anything like that. It only comes with 2 of their LA364 cores, featuring their long arc microarchitecture, and it's really only made for embedded applications. But as Tom's Hardware mentioned, what's pretty interesting was the fact that they have an LG120 GPU, which is, quote, core independently developed by Longsun, further optimizing the graphics algorithm and performance. Meaning this company, which is more of a CPU maker, is now working on GPUs just like AMD. As they mentioned, it's unlikely that we're dealing with something very advanced in terms of performance, and it's probably pretty underwhelming when it comes to power consumption, but it still is pretty interesting given this is a GPU from a more CPU-centric company. And when we look down here, you can see that they actually have ambitions to challenge AMD's Zen 3. So we could actually start seeing this company make GPUs as well, or at least iGPUs, i.e. APUs or system on a chip. Regardless, as usual, more competition is good. And lastly for today, I recently shared this video which shows some Vietnamese miners cleaning up GPUs to effectively make them look better with a pressure washer. Well, if you're looking at purchasing a used or even new GPU anytime soon, you definitely want to watch this, because GPU miners are going to some pretty wild lengths to pretend like their GPUs are either new or at least in great shape. According to a couple different YouTubers that have been studying this for a while now, there's a few ways to tell when a GPU is not new, even if they claim that it is. As you can see here, anything from dust accumulation, worn warranty stickers, scratches, oxidized contacts, as well as a slight change of PCB color are all things that effectively show that this card is not new or that it's been used really hard, i.e. for mining. And that actually includes yellowish markings on the memory chips, which, as you can see right here, they mention that it can have to do with overheating or effectively that it's been used quite a bit. Well, these two YouTubers right here have effectively found that what miners are doing now is that they're painting the GDDR memory chips. You can see right here that this one looks quite a bit newer than this one right here. We can see that they're applying a special tint on the DRAM ICs. The thing is that this can be fairly easily removed, which is what the YouTubers are doing to show, hey, this is what miners are doing to pretend that these GPUs are at least in much better shape than what they really are. Basically, I say all of this to let you know that it's really important you purchase your GPUs from a reputable retailer. That, or you do some serious inspecting yourself. because miners are apparently trying to dupe gamers into buying GPUs that are much more worn than they appear. So while that does it for today, what kind of issues have you run into while trying to buy a GPU? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please subscribe. And as always, have a great day.